16 was ahead of its time. The Canadian animated series was notable for many reasons, whether it be the awesome theme song, seriously it's so good, or the insane amount of censored and banned episodes in the United States. As I've mentioned a bunch of times in other videos that you should definitely check out after this one, the show was censored quite a bit and many episodes were banned from airing on Cartoon Network when 16 later aired in the United States, mostly because 16 was made for a slightly older audience than the young kids that Cartoon Network targeted. But today I'm going to talk about 2 episodes that were banned for an even bigger reason. I'm going to talk about the 2 episodes of 16 that were banned on Cartoon Network for introducing characters that were gay. Nowadays, Cartoon Network has come quite a long way and has had quite a bit of gay representation on its network, from Steven Universe to Adventure Time. But in the 2000s, the subject was pretty taboo on Cartoon Network, and pretty much every American network with kid shows. The only characters that were gay in US cartoons were usually characters that we could kinda tell were gay, like Mr. Simmons from Hey Arnold. Not too obvious, but a little wink and nudge to the portion of the audience that got it. But 16 was a Canadian show, and same-sex marriage was legalized in Canada in 2005, long before it was legalized in the US. So it makes sense that a Canadian cartoon would be willing to touch on this subject so freely when it was rarely even implied on American television, or at least American children's television. But 16 not only went there, they went there twice. The first time a gay character was heavily implied, and the second time, not only was a gay character officially introduced, one of the main characters is implied to be bisexual themselves. So buckle up and let's get into the 2 episodes of 16 that Cartoon Network never let see the light of day. First off, there was season 3 episode, Bicker Me Not. The Bickersons are, well, bickering as always. Jonesy tries to get them to stop, but accidentally inspires them to break up by suggesting that maybe they should have never been married in the first place.
Kid's got a point. We are just not right for each other. What?
Most of the rest of the episode revolves around the Bickersons reliving their teen years with the gang, with the kids eventually trying to reunite the two. But we're going to focus on the subplot that got the episode banned in the first place, and it's about Caitlin. Caitlin finds a left-behind bag at her job from a coworker and decides that the bag must belong to an attractive man, so she develops a bit of a crush, or maybe even obsession, with this guy who she's never even met or seen in person. She just knows that his name is Kevin, and she wants him pretty bad. Not gonna lie, Caitlin, at this point, it's getting pretty sad, sis.
Careful, you're flirting blind. With this bag, I've seen everything I need to see.
Throughout the episode, she fantasizes and theorizes about what Kevin is like, and when he finally shows up, it's implied that he doesn't want Caitlin because he likes guys.
Sorry, I think we're looking for the same thing.
Kate doesn't quite get the hint, so her friends have to explain it to her that he, well, Gracie Bickerson puts it best.
Get with it, girlfriend. Kevin plays for the other team.
The episode went unaired in the United States due to the implication of Kevin being gay. The show even implying this was a big deal at the time, but in season 4, they took it a step farther. Which brings us to the only banned episode of season 4, Role Reversal. The gang is stressing and rambling about the upcoming Sadie Hawkins dance, which is tradition for the girls to ask the boys. Later, Nikki is at work at the khaki barn, and her coworkers, the clones, are driving her crazy. As always, they told her she has to train a new employee, a girl named Jean. Nikki and Jean immediately hit it off. They have a similar personality, a mutual dislike for the clones, and great natural conversations. Nikki is super impressed by how much she's traveled. Since Nikki's dream is to travel, it's pretty clear that Nikki has a very strong interest in Jean.
She's just so darn cool.
Meanwhile, Jonesy, Nikki's boyfriend by the way, is wondering why Nikki hasn't asked him to the dance yet, and every time Jonesy calls Nikki, she hangs up right away because she'd rather talk to Jean.
I'll call you later, Jonesy. You've actually been to Peru?
Jonesy even loans Nikki $10, thinking it's for some extravagant proposal she's planning to ask him to the dance with, but she instead uses it to take Jean to lunch, and now Jonesy is all like, okay, something fishy is going on here. Nikki's friends try to convince her that Jean likes her, but she isn't buying it, or at least she won't admit it to her friends. Later on, Nikki tries to subtly find out if Jean likes girls by asking her a repeated question about the boys she's dated, but Jean sees right through her line of questioning and cuts to the chase.
If you're trying to find out if I'm gay, it's okay to just ask. Yes, I'm into girls.
Jean straight up tells Nikki that she is gay, but although she is into girls, she already has a date for the dance. But they agree to still be friends.
She's just too darn cool.
At the dance, Jonesy is stuck outside because Nikki never formally asked him to the dance because she was so distracted by her crush on Jean that she forgot. Nikki is mad at Jonesy for not showing up because she forgot that she was supposed to ask him, so she thinks he stood her up. She also gets a bit upset when she sees Jean with her date, but she brushes it off pretty quickly. When she realizes she forgot to ask him and runs off to find him, they make up pretty fast.
I'm sorry. I messed up.
So everything worked out okay with Jonesy and Nikki, well, for now. But in this episode, we also see Nikki clearly forget about his existence due to her crush on a girl. The episode introduced a lesbian character to the show, but not only that, the episode makes it pretty clear that one of the main characters, Nikki, is bisexual. That was a pretty big deal for an animated series at the time, and if it aired in the United States, it would have been a huge trailblazer for Cartoon Network and children's animation, as we wouldn't see any openly gay characters on Cartoon Network until years after this. Like I mentioned, this representation in a Canadian show was much more likely to take place long before an American show, since same-sex marriage was legalized in Canada a whole 10 years before it was fully legalized in the US. So the animation was very far ahead of the US in terms of representation. But it should be noted that 16 did a great job with the handling of this storyline. There were no gay jokes made, Nikki didn't get ultra defensive over her sexuality, and she never even officially mentions whether or not she likes girls herself. It was handled in a very calm and mature way, and I think 16 deserves credit for being so far ahead of its time with the relaxed representation.